I am the Namer, guardian of the names of power. Before your world even existed, my people were an ancient race. Now they are gone, and only I remain, keeper of my people's history. Across the endless tracts of space have I traveled, to return to the planet of my birth, Zoidstar. Though my people perished long ago, and their cities were buried by the shifting sands, the machines remain. It is these that have brought me here to perform the last act of the Zoidarian race, the giving of the names of power. When my race was young and had an interest in the affairs of the galaxy, they built the machines, mighty engines of destruction which gave the power of life and death over the other creatures in the galaxy. The Zoidarians turned their gaze outward and laid waste to 1,000 star systems with their machines, their Zoids. But ruling a galaxy was not enough for the Zoidarians. It was not the conquests, but the battles they enjoyed. And though all intelligent life trembled in the shadow of the Zoids, my people battled on, machine against machine, Zoidarian against Zoidarian, in the further pursuit of glory. Zoidarian lives were needlessly sacrificed to the god of battle, and the race dwindled in numbers until the elders outlawed the Zoid duels. But they couldn't outlaw the Zoidarian love of combat. The Zoidarian pilots of the giant war machines were replaced by androids, and thus the heroic combat could continue without threat to Zoidarian life. Too late came the order. Too late to save a once mighty race from extinction, and now only I remain. Only I and the Zoids. And though my people created the Zoids, I have no power to control them. For the war machines have become the living embodiment of the Zoidarian thirst for combat, with lives and wills of their own. They exist only to fight, to ensure that their heroic combat lasts for all eternity. Now I stand on the sand-blasted surface of a world I used to call home, high on a rock, scanning the horizon for some sign of movement, knowing that out there, behind the sand clouds, lurk the deadliest war machines in the universe. It begins!
New and mighty Zoids, they sweep our lives. So new Zoids we must create and assign. For mass production they must be decked. Deploy the Commandwolf and intercept. Commandwolves, cybernetic wolves in white. Commandwolves, high-speed machine geared to fight. Commandwolves, fire you laser guns well. Commandwolves, show the scent of a zombie hell. Cybernetic wolves in white. Commandwolves, high-speed machine geared to fight. Commandwolves, fire laser guns well. Commandwolves, show the scent of a zombie hell. With green meat, white armor, and gray metal, the Commandwolves will engage and settle to oppose the Xanabus black repose. Our new Commandwolves will fight and oppose. But as the war rages on, we lose ground. Commandwolves is inferior all around, so with urgency we must upgrade all. Settlers Commandwolf lock to its steel call. Commandwolves, cybernetic wolves in white. Commandwolves, high-speed machine geared to fight. Commandwolves, fire your laser guns well. Commandwolves, show the scent of a zombie hell. is a trendsetter. With potent laser guns, steel fangs and claws, the Commandwolf Mark II will win our wars. Commandwolf, cybernetic wolves in white. Commandwolves, high-speed machine gear to fight. Commandwolves, fire your laser guns well. Commandwolves, show the Cenobus army hell. Commandwolves, cybernetic wolves in white. Commandwolves, high-speed machine gear to fight. Commandwolves, fire your laser guns well. Commandwolves, show the Cenobus army hell. Zoidstar, our troubles persist. Like Zoid war, we add to that news list. Loyal blue guardians cut down en masse, so we must build cover Zoids of new class. Blue Zoid factories mobilize for war. New Blue Zoid forms to enlist in the core. The chaos breaks out as the Zoids defect. Cold renegades, they must now all be wrecked. Zarwolf, vicious white steel monster machine. Zarwolf, cybernetic beast and wolf sheet. Zarwolf, out to the Zoidstar moons in rage. All renegades, they must now all be wrecked. Zarwolf, vicious white steel monster machine. Zarwolf, cybernetic beast and wolf sheet. Zarwolf, out to the Zoidstar moons in rage. All renegades, they must now all be wrecked. Zarwolf, vicious white steel monster machine. Zarwolf, cybernetic beast and wolf sheet. Renegades are impossible to tame. Their wild nature is our blue Zoid shame. Zarwolf won't be captured and won't be taught, so the failed guardians must be fought. But now they even fight Zoid against Zoid. They won't stop till just one isn't destroyed. Zarwolf clashes with zero of the renegades, clashing their jaws and fangs like metal blades. Zarwolf, vicious white steel monster machine. Zarwolf, cybernetic beast and wolf sheet. Zarwolf, out to the Zoidstar moons in rage. All renegades, they must now all be wrecked. Cylinder tries in vain to stop their fight. The blue Zoids must not test each other's might. But Zarwolf and Seer aren't blue Zoids at all. They will fight on till only one stands tall. Zarwolf, vicious white steel monster machine. Zarwolf, cybernetic beast and wolf sheet. Zarwolf, out to the Zoidstar moons in rage. All renegades, they must now all be wrecked. White steel monster machine. Zarwolf, cybernetic beast and wolf sheet. Zarwolf, out to the Zoidstar moons in rage. All renegades, they must now all be wrecked. Zarwolf, vicious white steel monster machine. Zarwolf, cybernetic beast and wolf sheet. Zarwolf, out to the Zoidstar moons in rage. All renegades, they must now all be wrecked. Zarwolf, vicious white steel monster machine. Zarwolf, cybernetic beast and wolf sheet. Zarwolf, out to the Zoidstar moons in rage. All renegades, they must now all be wrecked.
Was a time full of wonder, without war, hate, and enemy. Now you can sense rolling thunder and the magic that's no longer free. In the night I feel them calling,
Zoidarians, guardian of the names of power, keeper of the legend of heroic combat, have spoken.